DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve, where the hell is it? You have not yet accomplished it. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, and that is the go-getter energy that moves anybody, you, me, anybody, everybody out there, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then what we do here is we take all of those things that we already given you and we streamline it. We put it into we create a whole process for it. We have codified our entire system so that anyone can follow this no matter what you do, what background you're coming from. We wrote a book on the subject. We got a university with all our best material in there, and we're giving you this daily masterclass. I mean, what more can you ask for? All of this is under one umbrella that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you are having trouble getting your work seen. Now, this is not why you're having trouble doing the work. You don't have a problem doing the work. You don't have a problem producing something that you want to put out there to the world. But the issue is not being seen by the people that it needs to be seen by. Now, I know there are people who have this challenge. You got the good stuff, you got the goods, it's there, but it's just the right people are just not finding it, or they don't know about it, or it just seems not to be landing with them the way that you thought it would land with those people, and you're wondering what the hell the problem is. I'm glad that you're wondering, because today I'm going to solve that issue. We're going to solve that unsolved mystery here in today's episode. Now, just a few weeks ago, we talked in episodes number 1687, 1688, and 1689. It was a three-part series titled Why You Can't Sell to Save Your Life. And one thing that I didn't even realize is back in episode, I believe it was 701. Let me make sure that I'm right about that. Episode 701. Yes, I said the same thing. Why you can't sell to save your life. So it should have been parts 2, 3, and 4 instead of parts 1, 2, and 3. But anyway, 701, I also talked about that exact same subject, why you're having trouble selling yourself. Today is about just getting your work seen by the right types of individuals. So this could kind of sort of be a part 5, but I mean, a lot of these episodes could kind of be strung together depending on the way that you want to angle them. But we address all these challenges, everything that we talk about in the Work on Your Game system from every angle, whether we're talking the mindset stuff, whether we're talking putting yourself out there to the world, i.e. selling yourself, and then we're talking about collecting on the value that you put into the world. In other words, getting paid for the stuff that you do. So anything under any of those three umbrellas, whether we're talking the sports world, the entrepreneurship world, the interpersonal world, relationship world, communication world, we have addressed it here on this show. And you see the number episode that you're listening to right here, I think you can agree that we have addressed it. We probably have over addressed it. We just tend to overdo things here at Work on Your Game. I hope you don't mind. But I know that you are in a situation. Those of you who this episode is specifically for, and even if it's not, you should still listen, because I'm going to say something that may be tangentially directed towards you, but you'll be able to get some value from it as long as you're paying attention. You know that you have game, you have skills you want to share, but again, it's not landing with the right types of people, or is not getting the right types of attention from the right types of people. So today we're going to talk about some of the reasons why that's happening, and we're going to talk about what you can do about it. Because what we're not going to do is just point out the issue, but not figure out how to resolve it. So we're going to do all this. And again, make sure you're checking 1687, 88, 89 about why you can't sell to save your life. Because it might just be because you can't sell to save your life, but there may be other reasons. So let's address those here today. Point number 1, the topic once again, why your work is not being seen by the right people. Number 1, you are trying to be and do too many things to and for too many people. Thusly, you are confusing your audience. I want you to understand something about human beings. All right, they are hard-headed people. They are hard-headed organisms, and this includes you. You are a hard-headed organism as well. When it comes to you personally, you know about all the things that you do. You might be interested in 7 different things. You know what all 7 of them are, and you know why you're interested in all 7, and you think you are equally good at all of them, and maybe you are correct. I'm not telling you that you're wrong, but here's what I am telling you, is that other human beings on the planet, everybody else, they do not have the mental capacity to remember all 7 things that you're interested in, or all 7 things that you're good at, or all 7 things that you supposedly want to be known for. They're going to remember maybe 1 thing about you, and if you're lucky, they'll remember 2. Actually, if you're lucky, they'll remember 1.5, because not because people are dumb, it's just because people they don't put aside mental capacity to think about you. How much time do you think about other people? Not that much. You think about someone enough that you could put them in a box mentally put them in a box. All right, this is what this person does. This person does this. This person does this. This person does this. I have group coaching calls, mastermind calls that I get on with people every week, I'm not talking about people who are in university and calls that I'm running, but when I'm in attendee in somebody else's calls, and I can look in the little Zoom boxes and I can see each person, and I can tell you one thing about each one of those individuals. All right, this person does this person does this person does this. And sometimes the person will come up on a call and they'll say something. They'll be like, yeah, well, my main business is doing this, but I also do this and I also do that. I don't remember what the alsos are. I just remember the main thing. What is the main thing that you do? And there are people who, on those same calls, they may look at me and they say, oh, Dre, well, he does basketball, or he played overseas, and they may not even quite understand. It doesn't really matter because they're not the people I'm trying to sell to anyway, so I don't really give a damn, but eventually they're going to get the point. The point that I'm making to you is this: you can't be more than one thing to other people because other people do not have the space to remember the commas. All right, y'all know what a comma is, right? As you say something, comma, another thing, comma, another thing, comma. People ain't going to remember anything after the first comma. So who are you and what are you delivering? What are you giving people? What do you want people to know you for? This is what branding is about. And we just talked about this a couple days ago. What is your brand going to be about? What do you want people to know you for? What do you want to represent out there in the marketplace? Who do you want to work with? And you need to come up with answers to this. And you want to be careful to not be adding slashes and commas to the answers to these questions, because that's when you start confusing people. Because number one, they're not going to remember what comes after the slashes or the commas. And number two, as a consumer myself, and you can decide, you can tell me what you think. As a consumer myself, I want the individual or the entity that really focuses on the thing that I need. So for example, if I want to fly a plane, or I need to get on a plane, I'm not going to fly it, I'm not a pilot. But if I want to get on a plane and take a trip somewhere, I want to get on the plane with the company that 100% focuses on flying airplanes. I don't want the company that they make rap videos and they also edit articles and they fly planes. I don't want the slash company that flying planes is just one of the many things in their suite of services. Nah, fuck that. I want the company that only flies planes. I don't want anybody who does anything else. If I want a burger, I want to go to a place that specializes in burgers, not a place that does ice cream and then they make burgers on the side. Nah. If I want to buy some clothes, I want somebody who makes clothes on the side. I want somebody who makes clothes full time. Why? Because in my mind, now I may be wrong, in my mind, the person who's focusing on just that main thing, they're probably better at it than the person who's doing it and splitting their attention and time between other things that they're doing. Branding is the image or message that you burn into the minds of your audience and your consumers. So as soon as you start adding commas and slashes to what you do, people start forgetting what you're talking about. Why do they forget? Because we don't have the space to remember all the stuff that you do. We ain't got that time. We ain't got that kind of time to be focusing on other people. Again, do you focus on other people? We use most of our time in mental space for ourselves. So here's how you deal with that. Now, you can decide to defy what I said. You can say that you don't believe what I said. You can disagree with me. You can try to change the world and get people to remember 30 things about you or even 2 things about you, and you will fail. But you can try it if you want to. Just don't say that nobody told you. Or here's your other option. You can accept human nature as it is, which I just explained to you, and instead focus on a simple concept or idea so that people can understand it, they can consume it, they can take it in, they can, there's a word I'm looking for that's escaping me here, but they can understand it, they can just get it, all right, they get it. Once you have someone's attention and they have bought into you and they understand you, then you can start to expand from there. Well, a lot of people, and that's the inside out strategy. Inside out is you get people to come into this specific thing that you're doing, and then once you have their attention there, then you can slowly expand outwardly, like concentric circles from the inside to the outside. What many people do incorrectly is they try to go from the outside in. They try to be doing 10 different things or 3 different things or even 1.5 different things. And then when they try to get people to pay attention to this bigger circle and then get them to slowly come inside, it does not work. Start on the inside and then go outside. Do not start on the outside and then try to go inside. Once you have the people's attention, then you can do all of that. But do not come in the door trying to be 5 things at once. It's not going to work. I remember I was watching, it was Russell Simmons, who's a hip hop mogul. I mean, he's not really in the hip hop industry anymore, but I remember he had a reality show like 10, 15 years ago. And on one of the episodes, he had some young guy who came into his office and the guy was trying to pitch himself as a musician that Russell Simmons should sign to one of Russell's music companies. And the young guy starts talking about, I do this kind of music. And he was talking a little bit about his music. And he played a little bit of his music for Russell, and Russell's listening. And then the kid starts talking about, well, I don't just do music. I also do, I'm going to have a clothing line, and I'm going to do, and it was a couple other things that he said. I can't remember all the things he said. It was like 4 or 5 things this kid was saying. In addition to the music, I know it was a clothing line. There's a few other things he was talking about doing. And Russell Simmons was like, hold on. Why don't we, first of all, let's make sure you're good at music before we start worrying about you doing all these other things. And that's the concept that you would need to understand. This is the simplification. This is getting rid of things. This is doing less. Many people these days, especially because the internet has allowed us to do pretty much anything that we want, and as many things as we want, a lot of people are doing too much to your own personal detriment. Even though you may be skilled at many things, it's to your detriment when you try to do too much, because people are not going to remember all these things that you are doing. Major in one thing, focus on that, and then you can build from the inside out. Again, do not try to build from the outside in. Point number 2. Today's topic is why your work is not being seen by the right people. Number 2, you are waiting for the world to recognize you. And that's not going to happen. If you are waiting on the world to recognize you, all right, grab a Snickers bar, because you will not be going anywhere for a while. Some people in life, they either get lucky, or it appears that they got lucky, that the world just recognized them and all of a sudden they blew up because somebody found them, or somebody found their YouTube video, or they blew up on TikTok, or somehow, some way, they just got some big break and everything just started working in their favor. And then when you see that, you might be convinced to think, okay, well, let me just keep doing these things and not trying to draw attention, but I'm just going to put my stuff out there, and hopefully somebody finds me the same way this other individual got found, or at least that you think they got found. Usually is not even the story. What you think is the story is not actually the story. Usually people do not just get lucky and they just get some random serendipitous break and everything just pops off for them. And the reason why we think that that's what happened is because we just don't know the whole story of how somebody got on. We know the parts that they told us about how they got on. We know the parts that got put in the documentary, and the parts in the movie, and the parts that somebody told in 5 minutes of their speech that they're giving of how somebody got on, and they're trying to motivate and excite us about how we can do the same thing. But they're leaving out parts of the story that either they're just leaving out intentionally because they don't want to tell you about the work, or they're leaving it out because they just don't know it. Maybe it was never told. Maybe there was some clever behind the scenes maneuvers that took place that were never told in the stories. That the person who got on never told anybody that this was part of how they got on, and they just want to make it seem like, make themselves look like more of a superhero, as if they didn't have to work hard to make it happen. And now they got a bunch of people indoctrinated in believing that, I don't have to work hard. I don't have to work hard at getting seen. Just work hard at doing the art, and all of a sudden people are just going to find me and the world is going to beat a path to my door. No, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't work like that. In episode 1515, one of the pivotal episodes of this show, you are a marketer. What does that mean? Your job, in addition to your creativity, is making sure people know about your creativity. It is your job to get the word out about who you are, what you're doing, and why it matters to a certain audience of people. Marketing refers to activities a company undertakes to promote the buying or selling of a product or service. Allow me to repeat that definition. And you should burn this into your brain, especially you creatives out there. Those of you who are creators, you have a podcast, you make art, you're selling your products on Etsy, you have courses, you are a coach. Anything that you're doing where you need to sell your products and services out there to the world, but you don't feel like enough people really even know that you exist right now. Let me give you again the definition of marketing. It refers to activities a company undertakes. That company, that's you. Even if it's just you, you're the company. Activities you undertake to promote the buying or selling of your products and services. Marketing includes advertising, selling, delivering products to consumers or other businesses. All of this is part of your marketing. Did you hear that whole definition? The delivery is part of your marketing, because if you suck at deliveries, you sell something to somebody, but then the course is trash, or you're not that great of a coach, or your artwork or whatever product you sold them falls apart in the first week. That's part of your marketing too, because they're probably going to say something. They're probably not going to buy from you again. They're probably going to tell one of their friends, and that's going to hurt your marketing. Would you agree? That's going to hurt your ability to sell more products in the future. Advertising, in other words, getting the word out about what you're doing. Doesn't necessarily mean you got to pay for advertising. You can get free advertising. You can do some kind of brand advertising, but you need to do something to get people to interrupt what they're doing to start paying attention to what you're doing. This is your job as a marketer. Selling, making the exchange between what you have and what the consumer has. You get what you want, they get what they want. Selling. I have a book called The Seller's Mindset. There's a course in Work on Your Game University called Sell Yourself. delivering your products. I just told you about that, to your consumers or to other businesses. If you are waiting to get seen, you're waiting to get seen. Getting seen and known is part of your job as a marketer when you have game to share with the world. It is your duty. It is your responsibility to share your game with the world when you know you have it, but the world doesn't know about it yet. So what I'm going to tell you to do, here's the call to action when it comes to marketing. It's a very simple call to action. Commit a percentage of your work time to getting yourself known, because marketing is part of the gig. So if you're spending all of your time creating, all your time putting things together, and you have all these ideas, every day you got a new idea for something else you can create and put out into the world, I get it. Listen, if anybody gets it, I get it. You see what number episode you're listening to, right? I understand having ideas and wanting to create things. At the same time, in order for people to know that you exist, you must commit a percentage of your time to getting the attention of those people. And they're not going to give their attention to you just because you created something else, because that's not what gets people's attention. You got to go out and do the marketing work. Again, listen to episode 1515. I'll tell you how that's done. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is why you are not getting your material seen by the right people. The third reason is because you're blending in. The good thing about blending in life, everybody knows what I mean when I say blending in, right? Do I need to explain that? All right, good. The good thing about blending in life is that you fit in with what's going on and you are generally accepted amongst the crowd. I mean, there are times that it's very smart to blend in. You don't need to draw any attention to yourself. You can just blend in with what everybody else is doing. You're just another face in the crowd. I just talked about this not too long ago. I talked about the stage and the audience. What are the benefits of being on stage? What are the benefits of being in the audience? Of episode 1695. If you want to get seen, you have to choose the stage or the audience. And many people might think, before you listen to that episode, you may presume that I'm just going to trash anybody who wants to be in the audience, but not necessarily. On the contrary, there are times where it is good to be in the audience. There are some benefits to being in the audience, but there are also some drawbacks. One of the benefits of being in the audience is you can be anonymous and nobody knows about you. One of the drawbacks of being in the audience, especially when your job is to market yourself, is that you're blending in and you're anonymous and nobody knows who the hell you are. So it depends on what your outcome is as to whether the stage or the audience is a good thing. And this can change situationally. When the situation changes, whether you want to be on the stage or the audience may change. Everyone understand what I'm saying here? The challenge with blending in, nobody notices you. You don't make a mark. You are a fungible commodity that is easily replaced, and nobody misses you when you're gone. That's what happens when you're a commodity. When you blend in, if you leave, it doesn't matter. Somebody else will just take your place. Nobody even noticed that you left the room. Why? Because you were blending in the first place. Why would anybody notice that you left? Now, if you're on stage and you leave, everybody notices because everybody was watching you from the beginning. Nobody watches the audience. Or the audience watches the stage. So when you're blending in, meaning the way that you present yourself is too similar to everyone else, you are easily replaceable. It means if you leave, somebody else will just come in and take your place. Even if nobody takes your place, nobody even knows that nobody took your place because nobody even noticed that you had a place in the first place. You follow what I said there? I hope I didn't twist you up with that one. You become fungible, easily replaceable. You are a commodity, meaning I could just pick any one of you and I'm going to pretty much get the exact same thing. At least that's what I'm thinking in my mind. That's a story that I have in my mind as a consumer. It may not be true. You may be way better than everybody else, but you appear to be the same as everybody else. If you find yourself in that situation, understand it is your job to make clear that what you offer is way different from what everybody else offers. It is your job to do that. And you need to figure out, how am I going to do that? The insight, episode 1177, the insight is asking yourself some critical questions on how you're going to make that happen. I told you in episode 1217, where I talked about Michael Jordan, virtual mentors. In the 1992 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan was his Bulls were headed up against the Portland Trailblazers, whose best player was a guy named Clyde Drexler. And Clyde was known as one of the best shooting guards in the NBA, as was Michael Jordan. They had not faced up in a series before, and this was a chance for everybody to say, oh, Michael Jordan against Clyde Drexler. Two guys, they're both about the same size, they're both really athletic, they both have bald heads, they both jump high. Let's see who the better player is. Michael Jordan later said that during that series, I wanted to make sure everyone understood there was a clear difference between Clyde Drexler and myself. What was Michael Jordan saying? I wanted to differentiate myself from anyone else in my field who anyone thought they could group me in with. That was exactly what he said. And then his insight was, all right, how do I do that? The great thing about the sports world is pretty black and white. You get on the field or the court or the track and you perform and you make clear that you're better than whoever. Now, in the business world, you had to do is a little bit different. It's not hand-to-hand, head-to-head combat in that way. You got to be a little bit more, need a little bit more ingenuity for doing that. But there are plenty of people with plenty of ideas out there who can help you out. As a matter of fact, there's a show called Work on Your Game with damn near 2,000 episodes that can help you out as well. But you got to figure out how you're going to separate yourself from everyone else. If you know you're clearly better than everyone, but nobody else knows, your job is to change that. Take what you have in your head and get it into everybody else's head. You know what they call that? They call that sales. It's a transfer of emotions, how you feel about you, and then you get everybody else to feel that about you. That is selling. And selling is a part of marketing. And you are a marketer, which I told you in episode 1515. You see how all this connects together. If you want to be seen, there needs to be something about you, at least one thing about you, that is different from what we already have. And even if that one thing about you is already there, it already exists, you know it exists, the job is to make everybody else know that it exists. Make them accept it. And it doesn't have to be some brand new concoction that you made out of scratch. It can be a simple twist on what we already have. For example, we know that we have basketball coaches, but when we get the first female basketball coach, let's say there's a woman who's an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs named Becky Hammond. She used to play in the WNBA. Now she's on the coaching staff of the San Antonio Spurs, and I believe she was the first woman on the coaching staff. So that made her stand out. She stood out because she was the first woman. Who knows if she's even good at coaching? I don't know. I don't know how you even measure how good a coach is, but she was the first one to do it. So she's going to stand out because she was the first one doing it, whether she's good or not. And if she gets a head coaching job, she's going to stand out if she's the first one to get one. Why? Because she's the first one to do it. She could be terrible, but she's going to stand out because she was the first one to do it. I remember when the WNBA introduced their first female referees. This is probably about 20 years ago. And many critics who are at least bold enough to say it said at least one of these female, I don't remember they talked about both of them, but one of them, they was like, this woman is trash. She's not a very good referee, but she was the first female. So she stood out, and her name will always have a place in history because she was the first one doing it. Being the first to market will make you stand out. That's a twist. Being first is a twist. Being the only of something is a twist. Doing something in a way that hadn't been done before is a twist. Even if it's not good in the long run, if it gets proven to be trash, just the fact that you introduced the twist that nobody had introduced before will make you stand out. And the insight for you is asking yourself, what is that thing that's going to make me stand out from whoever else in the field so that people know my name and people know what I'm about? Again, episode 1177 is one of the most important episodes, especially for any of you marketers, any of you creative individuals trying to figure out how are you going to break through or what is your breakthrough idea. Listen to the episode on Insight because it's really about asking yourself the right questions. So being the first female, the first person of color, the first person from a certain place, the first to creatively combine things, the only to have done something. Anything that you can say and you absolutely own it and nobody can question it, that is an insight that can set you apart from everybody else. That's the thing that can differentiate you from everyone else out there. If you're not in a field like sports where you can get on the court or the field and just prove, hey, I won, look at the scoreboard. In business is not quite like that. It's a little bit trickier, but it can be figured out. And it's your job to figure it out. Let's recap today's class, which is why you are having trouble getting your work seen by the right people. You know you have game, you want to share it with the world, but it's not getting the right attention from the right people. Let's talk about why that is. Number one, you are trying to be and do too many things to and for too many people. Thusly, you are confusing your audience, or you are alienating your opportunity to even reach a certain audience because they're looking for somebody who does this. But since you're trying to do this and this and this, they don't even notice you because you got all those comments. They're looking for somebody who just does that thing. And the thing you have to remember is that we don't maintain capacity in our minds to remember multiple things that a person does. We usually can remember one. And once you start putting commas and slashes into what you do, nobody remembers anything that you do. Do not come in the door trying to be 5 things at once or even 2 things. Number 2, you are waiting for the world to recognize you. This is a failing strategy. Some people, it appears that they got lucky, that they just waited and the world recognized them or the world randomly found them. Usually that's not the story, but that's just as part of the story that you know about. You are a marketer. I told you in episode 1515, marketing is activities that a company undertakes to promote the buying or selling of a product or service. This includes advertising, selling, and delivering products to your consumers. If you are waiting, you are waiting. The problem with waiting is you might be waiting forever. Point number 3, you are blending in. Good thing about blending in is that you fit in with the crowd and you are generally accepted amongst the crowd. The challenge of blending in is that you're fitting it with the crowd. You're generally accepted amongst the crowd. Nobody notices you when you don't make a mark. You're a fungible commodity that is easily replaced. And when you leave, nobody even knew that you left. If you want to be seen, you need to have something about you that is different from what we already have. It does not have to be something brand new. It doesn't have to be something made from scratch. It can be a simple twist on what we already have, being the first of something, being the only of something. Listen to episode 1177 on Insight, because you need it so that you can get your game out there into the world. Because if you have game and it can help other people, it is your job, it is your responsibility, it is your duty to make sure it helps them. And if you're not marketing, you will fail at that. You haven't taken my course called Sell Yourself. That's because you are not in Work on Your Game University. So fix that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. And while you're doing that, make sure you get your copy of my book, The Seller's Mindset. Work on your game. Dre all day.